This is the book of John, chapter 4, verse 22. Ye worship, ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Brakata Yahweh, Brakata Yahweh Shai, Brakata Yahweh, Brakata Yahweh Shai. Yahweh is the name who the world ignorantly calls God, and Yahweh Shai is his son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. First and foremost, I want to give all praises and all glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who ruled well and taught us this truth. They are the true teachers for the nation of Israel on earth today. And citation to the Akim out there pushing this truth and sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth and risking their life for Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai's sake. I'm Brother Samak from the GMS Miami camp. And yes, the reason why I brought out the book of John, chapter 4, verse 22, is that our read for the week is the continuation of the book of Esther. We've been reading the book of Esther for the past 2 weeks. And this week, we're reading the book of Esther, chapter 6 through 10. And in the 8th chapter, there's the account where King Xerxes grants Esther, her petition to allow the Jews, throughout all the province of Persia, to take their vengeance on the heathen, who were going to make an attempt to destroy the Jews, courtesy of Haman, who got hanged on the gallows. All right, and if you read the book of Esther, you should know what I'm talking about, because it was Haman that wanted to destroy all the Jews. Haman the Agagite, who comes from the tribe of Amalek, a descendant of Esau, Edom. So Haman was a so-called white man today. If you want to know, when we say the so-called white man, we're talking about Esau, Edom. That would be Haman, like a vocab Malone. So the point is that, it reminded me of the book of John, chapter 4, verse 22, because, there was a lot of heathens, that were Judaized, and that's the word I'm going to bring out. Judaized out of fear, meaning they adopted, they conform, they took on the Israelite culture, religion, custom, out of fear, not out of faith, out of fear of being destroyed. And so that's where I'm going with this. And that's why I brought out the book of John, chapter 4, verse 22, because even the Samaritan woman, the reason why she said what she said regarding the well, Jacob's well, is because, her ancestors, were Judaized in the time of the Assyrian Empire, which I'm going to get this account. And then we're going to go into Esther. So in the time of the Assyrian Empire, after the Assyrian king, I believe it was Shalmaneser the Fifth, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check. Who was the Assyrian king who conquered Israel? The northern kingdom of Israel was conquered by a succession of 3 Assyrian kings. Tiglath-Pileser III began the conquest in 740 BCE. Shalmaneser V besieged and captured the capital Samaria in 72 BCE, and Sargon II completed the destruction and exiled its people to Syria in 721 BCE. Okay. All right. So it was I thought it was Shalmaneser. Hold on a second. Let me see something here. Bear me one moment. Gotta get back to this history. Second Esdras 13. And around the 40th verse. Yeah, it was Shalmaneser. It says right here, in Second Esdras chapter 13, verse 40, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land at the time of Hosea the king, whom Shalmaneser the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. There you go. Okay, so it was Shalmaneser. Let me see if in Second Kings it says the same thing. Yeah, King Hosea. Yep, King Shalmaneser of the Assyria attacked King Hosea. There you go. So it is Shalmaneser. All right. So so just to clarify, which Assyrian king, all right, took the children of Israel out and put in, all right, these heathens. Okay, so now here we go. Again, Judaized, that's the key. Judaized. That's the key, okay, of why you had certain heathens, all right, thinking they were Israelites, all right, even though they were not of the descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They took on the customs, all right, and they did it out of fear, okay, of being put to death, either by the Israelites themselves or by the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob sending in a lion, like in this chapter. 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 24. The king of Assyria transported groups of people from Babylon. I'm reading the NLT version. Babylon, Katha, Ava, Hamath, and Seraphaim, and resettled them in the towns of Samaria, replacing the people of Israel. They took possession of Samaria and lived in its towns. 25. But since these foreign settlers did not worship the Lord when they first arrived, the Lord sent lions among them, which killed some of them. Right. So they were getting attacked by lions. That's where you get the movie with Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas, Ghost. What's that movie called? Ghost lion movie. Yeah, this is it. The Ghost in the Darkness. That's it. The Ghost in the Darkness. All right. This is where they got the idea of lions attacking people. Okay, from the scriptures. All right. The Ghost in the Darkness. Yeah, this is a pretty awesome movie. I recommend watching. It's pretty dope. All right. So back to 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 25 again. But since these foreign settlers did not worship the Lord Yahweh when they first arrived, that's right there. See, capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D. That's the Heavenly Father's name, Yahweh. Okay, IUIC. When they first arrived, the Lord Yahweh sent lions among them, which killed some of them. 26. So a message was sent to the king of Assyria. The people you have sent to live in the towns of Samaria do not know the religious customs of the God of the land, the God of Israel. He has sent lions among them to destroy them because they have not worshipped him correctly. You see, the king of Assyria, Shalmaneser, then commanded, send one of the exiled priests back to Samaria. Right, it's talking about a Levite, the Levite priest. Let him live there and teach the new residents the religious customs of the God of the land. 28. So one of the priests who had been exiled from Samaria returned to Bethel and taught the new residents how to worship the Lord. Right. So because they didn't want to be destroyed by these lions, so they were scared. All right. So they were Judaized. That's the point. Judaized. All right. 29. But these various groups of foreigners also continue to worship their own gods in the town after town where they lived. They placed their idols at the pagan shrines that the people of Samaria had built. Right. So, okay. So they were still worshiping their own gods. All right. Even though they had to take on some of the customs of the land, the Israelite customs, so that the Lord wouldn't send the lions. So at the end of the day, these are still heathens. All right. That's why the woman at the well, okay, is not an Israelite. Okay, she's a heathen. All right. Now, what's so interesting is that when you go into the cross reference, right? Right here at the Our Fathers, where it says in John chapter 4 verse 20, our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and ye say that in Jerusalem is a place where men ought to worship. Okay. Now, when you go to the cross reference, all right, there it is. 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, verse 26 on down. All right. So this is how you know that Samaritan woman was Judaized. She did not come from the loins of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All right. That's why we can always say, time and time again, salvation is not for the heathens. All right. The heathens are going to learn our customs and cultures. All right. When we're ruling again. Okay. When you read Zechariah chapter 14, and I'm going to start at 16. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem, and Jerusalem the people before the place, shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, Yahushai, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Right, they're going to be forced to keep the Feast of Tabernacles, to keep the customs. All right, this is when we return back to our homeland after the destruction. All right, the heathens that survived. Okay, this is when you read Isaiah chapter 2, this is what it's talking about. All right, so these heathens will learn our customs and our culture. They will be, quote unquote, I'm putting quote unquote quotations, Judaized. All right, just like before. 17, it shall come to pass that whosoever will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. You see that? Okay. So these heathens are going to have to learn our customs and cultures. All right. In the kingdom. 18. If the family of Egypt go not up and come not up to have no rain, there shall be the plague wherewith the Lord Yahweh will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Is that happening now? No. That's how we know those people in our homeland are not the chosen people, because this is not happening. Okay? When this occurs, all right, is when the true biblical Hebrew Israelites, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all right, the 12 tribes that James 1:1, I got to bring this out. Okay? I got to bring this out because it's like you plantation Christians, okay, are really, really just, okay, not sincere, okay, and you're proud. You're very proud people, man. That's why I call you monkeys. James 1:1. James, a servant of God and of the Lord Yahushai Hamashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings. Okay? All right? And when you go to the word scattered, okay, it goes into the Greek word diaspora or diaspora, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Okay? A scattering, a dispersion of Israelites dispersed among foreign nations. Right? Because we got kicked out the land and we got scattered. All right? Okay? And our people, all right, in antiquity knew the history. That's why James wrote to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad greeting. And James is Yahushai's brother. Okay? So the point is that salvation has always been to the Israelites. And that's why I brought out John chapter 4, verse 22. All right? Because you plantation Christians, okay, And you gutter rat JJs, you worship what you know not what, man. Okay? We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Okay? And you plantation Christian heathens, and you heathen JJs, you're going to bow down to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay? And you're going to do it out of fear. Okay? And you're going to conform. You're going to be, quote unquote, Judaized, to adapt, conform to, or impose the religious, culture, physical characteristics of Judaism. Okay? Where really it should be Israelite. Okay? Because that's what the Lord, all right, named us, Israelites. All right? So now I want to bring this out because in the book of Esther, again, all right, when that decree that was made by King Xerxes after King Xerxes, all right, took on the petition of Esther and agreed to what Esther wanted, all right, in that decree that occurred, this is where we get Purim, right? The last month, was it called Adar, on the 13th day. Oh, by the way, 13 is our number. We're taking that number back. Don't be scared of that number 13. That's what Esau wants you to be scared. The number 13 is our number, because that was the day that we took vengeance on these heathens that wanted to slaughter us with that that BS decree that Haman manipulated the King Xerxes with. All right, and it backfired on Haman. That's why he got put on the gallows. All right, but that number 13 is our number. All right, we taking that back. All right, because Jake likes to be superstitious and all scary with that number 13. No, Esau pushes that out. Okay, but that number 13 is our number. Anyway, Slocky for going on a tangent. But I want to read this part. So this is the decree. All right. Esther chapter 8 verse 16. The Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor. 17. In every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness and a feast and a good day. And many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. Right, because they feared that they were going to be put to death. So they say, hey, let's learn their customs, let's learn their culture, let's be quote unquote Judaized. And that's why when you go to the word, the Hebrew word, where is it at? Became, right? Became Jews. Check this out. All right. The Hebrew word is Yahad, okay, which means to become a Jew, in fact, or in fraud. Become Judaized, to Judaize, okay? All right? So they took on the customs, all right, the culture of the Jews, but they are not the descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They don't have the royal bloodline, okay, in their veins, for lack of better words. So this is how you know, all right, that these heathens are only going to accept, all right, our laws, customs, and culture is when fear gets put into them. And that's why, again, why I brought out Zechariah, all right? And again, when you read Isaiah chapter 2, right, where it says God's universal reign, Isaiah chapter 2, verse 1, the word that Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, talking about the northern and southern kingdom, the 12 tribes. 2, and it shall come to pass in the last day that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, representing government, because, all right, the government of Yashar Allah, of Israel, okay, is going to be the government that rules over all the nations, directing, guiding, ruling the mind. That's what government means, okay? Govern meaning to direct, to guide, to rule, and meant means the mind. And shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow onto it. 3, why? Out of fear. And many people shall go and say, come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, of the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, out of fear, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Right, okay? And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Right. And this is in the kingdom of heaven, when the Israelites are established, okay, as the ruling nation by Yahweh Shai. Okay. That's when these heathens are going to bow down and accept our culture and heritage, all right, and customs out of fear. So again, so when you go into scriptures like these, all right, just know why did Yahweh Shai say in the red letter, ye worship what ye know not what. We know what we worship for salvation of the Jews, because that Samaritan woman was never, okay, a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All right. Her forefathers, all right, took on our customs out of fear of getting slaughtered by the lion. All right. Just like in the time of the Persian Empire, okay, all right, these heathens took on our custom, all right, adopted our culture out of fear, okay, because they didn't want to get slaughtered, all right, by the Israelites, maybe the southern kingdom, because it was the southern kingdom that was there. The northern kingdom was already removed out of that so-called Middle East, West Asia. Okay, they already were over here on this side doing wicked shit. That's why the Lord sent the conquistadors to put a foot up in their ass. All right, you northern kingdom, you so-called Hispanics and Native Americans. All right, that's still on that Roman Catholicism. All right, Roman Catholicism is not the way. That is BS. That's why the Lord sent, okay, 2 earthquakes in Venezuela. Okay, slapped them up twice. But anyway, Lord willing, let us edify again. What inspired me to do this lesson, to recap, is I was reading Esther, and I went into this word where it said, and they became Jews. And when you go into that, all right, it says they were Judaized, all right, and that's how you know that the woman at the well in the book of John, verse 4, verse 22, she was Judaized. Okay, she was not the descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, she came from a line of heathens that took on our customs and culture out of fear of getting put to death. Okay, by lions. All right, regarding the Samaritan woman. All right, forefathers. So, Lord willing, this was edifying. Again, just wanted to bring this out. Judaize, what does this mean? And this is a very important word to know, so that this is something you can use in your arsenal when these monkeys, plantation Christians, all right, buck up and talking about everyone can be saved as long as you believe in Jeebus. That's a lie. Okay? That is a lie. Not, okay? Only the elect can be saved. All right? The elect out of the nation of Israel. That's who's getting the salvation. So, Lord willing, let's edify. I want to give all praise and all glory to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who ruled well and taught us this truth. They are the true teachers for the nation of Israel on earth today. And salutation to the Akim out there pushing this truth and sincerity throughout the 4 corners of the earth and risking their life for Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai's sake. Love you, brothers. Keep it door, keep the faith, keep pushing, keep fighting, keep studying. Pray without ceasing. Pray for each other. Pray for the apostle elders. Just keep pushing. And when you pray for the apostle elders to have good health and longevity as they get up in age. And for the futures that are watching, keep studying when you pray. Pray to cover. Shalom. And as the apostle elders always say, on to the next one. Lord willing.